So I just received another testimony email that I wanted to read. Before I do, I did want to make a brief statement about the last testimony video that I made. I made the dumb mistake of not specifying. I guess I just assumed that since I've been doing these testimony videos for some time now, that it would be understood that I was just reading an email from somebody. And the last one that I did, the guy had the same name as I did. But that was not my testimony. So for anyone who's new and that was the first one, a lot of people thought that was my story, but it's not. I don't want there to be confusion about that. But that was a different Will. I'm not 25. I don't know if I wish I was still 25 or not. I was kind of a mess at 25. I mean, it's still getting lots of views, and it's such an amazing story. So I just wanted to try and clarify that, and so hopefully I can avoid making that mistake in the future. But same name, different guy. Now this email is from a guy named Dan, and I'm just going to read it for you now. It says, "Hi Will. I'm 26 and I live in Australia. I was raised in a left-leaning, non-religious middle-class family. I had never considered religion once during my formative and teenage years. I was heavily indoctrinated at school, as we all are, and thus my earlier years are of no great interest, and to reflect on my childhood past the age of 5 all the way to the age of 18 and to understand what was being done to me saddens me on a profound level. Academically I performed poorly, as my mind was fixated on the why regarding everything I was taught or learned. I've always been extremely social and deeply caring for people. Empathizing and connecting with others came easily to me, and I formed many strong friendships and was well liked and popular throughout my school and university years. I studied psychology as a result of my fascination with human beings, but it was a philosophy course that set me on the path to my salvation. I'd become obsessed with understanding the nature of the human mind, human consciousness, and what it meant to be human. I studied Heidegger and Kant and lost myself in the convoluted mental abstractions of these men presented to me as great works of literature. I distinctly remember reading Heidegger's Being and feeling like I had it all figured out. I'd finally understood what it meant to be a human being, what consciousness really was, attending study sessions with my fellow classmates and having late, passionate arguments over red wine about the true nature of human consciousness. All of these people were atheists. The topic of God was never once addressed, in class nor in private with friends, and if it ever was, it was in an uncomfortable, derogative, cynical manner. Although I was convinced there was no God, I had been successfully brainwashed via my upbringing, friend circle, media, and university to view the Bible as being an irrelevant, laughable book for the sheep. When I was alone and with my thoughts, I was unable to reconcile my own gnawing awe regarding human consciousness with the atheistic idea that we evolved by chance from formless organic matter that for no reason came to be conscious. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was beginning to reject and become repulsed by the idea of atheism. This is where the seed was planted, and the gnawing of my spirit to find the truth began. At this stage of my life, I was heavily addicted to lust and women. I spent the majority of my time at university chasing women, partying, and escaping with alcohol and recreational drugs. I would oscillate between extreme highs when I was out partying, embracing the idea that nothing matters and we exist to experience as much as possible before we die, and crushing, inexplicable existential come-downs when I was alone with my thoughts or hit with the emotional repercussions of my hedonistic lifestyle. Nothing I learned in philosophy would comfort me, explain anything, or help me come to terms with the state of human beings and my own inexplicable consciousness. I began to realize that I was studying the existential lamentations and cries of other men in the same position as me. During this time I became aware something was extremely wrong with the world. I became consumed with existential malaise. All I cared about was, where did I come from? Who am I? Why do other people not seem to care about these things? And wrestling with the incomprehensible reality that I was going to die and cease to exist, that my life ultimately was worthless and meant nothing. I could not come to terms with the reality that these fundamental questions did not seem to be the collective goal of the human race to answer above everything else. I sunk deeper into drug use with my atheist friends, deeper into rampant alcoholism and sex to keep me distracted from the rapidly consuming discomfort I felt within my own body. I rejected philosophy and psychology. I began stealing, lying, cheating on partners who loved me deeply. I was no longer able to care about others and viewed human beings and the world as tools for my own nihilistic pleasure, as means to my own personal ends. However, when I wasn't drunk or escaping with physical pleasure, my mind was fixated on my own impending end. I spent countless nights driving aimlessly, thinking to myself, this can't be it. This can't be all there is. This can't be life. I recall many times I would drive to the ocean, sit at the shore, and cry. Many nights I would be awoken in a state of terror, unable to accept that one day I would just stop existing. I couldn't understand why, as an atheist who accepted that we evolved by chance and are ultimately here for no reason. This bothered me so much on a profoundly spiritual, not to mention biological level, and that the things I was doing in my life were crushing me. I could not seem to understand why others around me were progressing through life so, quote, easily, that these thoughts did not seem to trouble anyone else to the extent that they bothered me. In the depths of my crippling existential malaise, I began to accept that the world was not how I'd been told it was. I came across 9/11 conspiracy theories, and my fascination of human beings, coupled with my empathetic understanding of our nature as a direct result of my own horrible behavior and psychology studies, allowed me to almost instantly believe and accept that 9/11 was an inside job. Things began clicking for me as I realized, or rather believed, the source of my existential depression came as a result of the true nature of human beings and the consequential way in which the world had been structured. I began to believe human beings are inherently bad, that the default state of man is that of an animalistic primitive lust, greed, and desire for power. We evolved from apes, after all. I researched and consumed every conspiracy theory available to me, believing them all without so much as a single doubt. I was smug. I felt as though I knew the, quote, truth now. I was woke. I understood human nature, and thus understood how and why this was simply just the state of humanity. Those at the top must remain at the top, as it is within the animal kingdom. One evening I stumbled across WikiLeaks and the Podesta Clinton emails, and after a few nights of research my world was completely flipped upside down. I went completely insane for the next 2 months or so, in which I was researching child satanic ritual abuse and politics extensively and in depth. I could not fathom that such evil could exist in the world, even though I believed I had human beings all figured out. I could not reconcile this level of horror and objective evil and the way it psychologically and spiritually destroyed me within my own atheistic, morally relativist worldview. Pizzagate utterly ruined me. As I began to find evidence of its objective truth in my own neighborhood, I truly went insane. I lost my girlfriend, many friends, and my family distanced myself from me as I tried to talk to them about it, to show them how unfathomably sick this world is. Pizzagate showed me the true nature of this planet, that there is a long-existing familial bloodline that rules this planet, and that it goes beyond simple money and power consolidation. I discovered in total disbelief that these people worship religious gods, and thus I was unable to relate to them on even a human level, not just a moral level. They weren't just, quote, bad people. I was terrified. I began to see evidence of their worship in every facet of mainstream media, music, movies, news. I began to realize that my entire life, everything I had ever been taught was true or good was a lie perpetrated by these same people, and that they were quite literally mocking humanity. My understanding of history was all a lie. I began to see that the entire world had been set up in a way to keep these people and their completely unbelievable religious activities protected, hidden, and untouchable. I researched the Illuminati, the Bilderbergs, the Rothschilds, and completely re-educated myself on human history. I was desperate to understand the objective reality of the world I lived in, no matter how sick and unbelievable it was. After 6 months of re-education and exposure to the reality of this world and the people who control it, I fell into a hopeless, suicidal depression. I felt completely disconnected from life and the world. It was the most terrifying place I've ever been in. I was spiritually destroyed, angry, desperate, and tired. I simply could not come to terms with it all. I realized I could not live a life in which I had been born into slavery to people who kidnap, sell, torture, mutilate, rape, and ritually sacrifice the world's children to gods, that lie to us about history, about science, about every conceivable truth we think to be true. I felt like I'd gone absolutely insane, that I was living in a sick, laughable nightmare, and I simply could not come to terms with it. My family did not care. My friends ridiculed me, and I was alienated and alone. I couldn't work. I couldn't sleep. I had no motivation to do anything. I found Flat Earth one night in a state of complete spiritual submission. I thought, this is most likely true. In fact, I already know this is true. And Eric Dubay's video resonated with me within seconds. I instinctively knew that the earth was flat, and I already knew the motivation behind why we were taught otherwise. I cried again, shutting myself away in my room for days, leaving only to climb up onto my roof and stare up at the sky and stars at night. Flat Earth was the final nail in the coffin, and I finally realized I was unable to live as a slave in this nightmarish reality. I could relate to no one. All my friends distanced themselves from me. I lost my girlfriend, and I had no one I could even begin to speak about any of this to. I saw no conceivable way in which I could continue living with this, and I began planning my suicide. My Flat Earth awakening on the tail of Pizzagate, in no uncertain terms, opened my eyes to the reality that there is objective, unquestionable evil in this world. Upon listening to Eric Dubé one night in bed, I heard him reference the firmament in the Bible, and searched Flat Earth Bible, which led me to your channel. I have exclusively watched yours, ODD's, and Chris White's videos for the past 3 months. 3 months ago, in the depths of existential and suicidal depression, I read the Bible after one of your early Flat Earth videos, and began feverishly researching Christianity, Jesus Christ, and his life and teachings. Once I had the sufficient historical evidence I needed to satisfy my analytical mind and take the story of Jesus seriously, I read the New Testament for the first time in my life and involuntarily wept. I felt as if my life was being pieced back together with every verse I read, every word of Jesus, every testimony of his disciples. I felt as if the desperate yearning and gnawing inside me since childhood was being nurtured and soothed. The scriptures and ideas I had been so staunchly opposed to, so mocking of, instantly and naturally resonated in me, with no cognitive effort on my behalf, to where I felt they were speaking directly to the spirit inside me that I had so vehemently denied existed for most of my life. I completely submitted. I went to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror and broke down, calling out to God. I was almost hysterical. I repented for every single wrongdoing, every sin I had committed that I could think of, and called out to Jesus Christ. In that moment I felt something I had never felt in my life since being held in my mother's arms as a baby. I felt like I was home, at complete ease and complete peace, and felt an indescribable weight lift from me and true love taking its place. I cannot put this experience into words, but I was consumed, and as quickly as I had broken down, I was left smiling and sobbing with joy, shaking my head in disbelief. By far it was the most profoundly emotional and moving experience I have ever had. I truly believe he himself led me to God. I can't explain my journey and the destination I've reached in any other way. My outlook on life has completely changed, and I am at ease. I am now more aware of the depravity of this world, but I have come to terms with it. I am still in the stages of wanting to do nothing but praise him and love him. I want to dedicate my life to him. The love I feel for Christ and the love I feel from him is like nothing I have ever experienced. I cannot put it into words. It is simply the answer and the reason to continue living. The Bible is the only way to come to terms with waking up. It is the only thing that will soothe and console you on a spiritual level that you are going to be okay, and that everything we are facing and are yet to face has been written and is meant to be. The Bible is the origin and the meaning of your life laid out before you. It is the fundamental truth and the only truth. Jesus Christ is the only truth in this world, and he died so that rotten people like me are able to wake up, navigate their way through this spiritual enslavement that we have been born into, break free from the evil that has consumed and poisoned humanity, and find the path back to our Father. There is simply no other alternative. There is nothing else but him. There is no existential peace or sense of reason, no satiation of the gnawing and slowly building discomfort within you that eventually demands you confront and understand your origin and life without him. We live in a flat, enclosed system. God created everything within this system for us. Everything outside of this system is God's domain and our true spiritual point of origin. We are made in God's image to have dominion over and experience life within a physical realm he created for us to inhabit. Jesus Christ is the physical human manifestation of God sent here by God himself to show us the truth of what and who we are. Without Jesus Christ suffering for us, we are doomed. The proof of this reality comes with understanding that this is being hidden from us. The proof is the realization that evil objectively controls the world and the human condition. Thank you so much, my friend. Please don't stop making videos. Oh.
Reporting on events as they unfold at the end of the age. You're listening to the Hagman and Hagman Report, streaming live from the Global Star Radio Network. Please stand by. Doug and Joe will be right back.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the Hagman Report. It is Tuesday, October 10th. That's right, you heard me right, October 10th, 2017. The weather is mild. I'm kidding. I want to welcome everyone to tonight's show. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Andrew Kerr coming out of the gate. That's right, Brock Buster, not Blockbuster. No, I didn't turn Chinese.
Eric. We are streaming live on Twitter.
We are.
And we asked folks
guys on Twitter
to watch on Twitter there.
Please watch on Twitter.
And what we did is hashtag two terms, one being Brockbuster. So get that ball rolling on Twitter.
Hashtag Brockbuster.
Yes.
Hey, David Brock, we want you to watch this. Mr. Brock, please watch this. Or have one of your friends watch this. But anyway, I remember talking to Mr. Kerr about this issue about a year ago. Knew this was coming. That's right. We knew this was coming. Couldn't say a word. actually, I like doing this because my daughter Jackie's over here waiting to put a piece of equipment on the desk, and she's afraid to do it to be on camera. There she goes. There she goes. That's my daughter Jackie. By the way, upcoming nuptials. Her and Eric the Tech. It's a match made in heaven, of course, this week, and want to just say congratulations and so happy Eric the Tech and Jackie, and that means that it truly is a family function. I want to say hello to my good friend Pat Campbell, KFAQ, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. God bless you, my friend. He's got like I think pretty much like Noah. He's got like I don't know 24 children. He's got a whole bunch. He's a great guy, though. I want to say hello to him. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on Periscope, Twitter, apparently, as we are live. And thanks for tuning into our two shows. Mine at 9 a.m., 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, on BTR. Go to Blog Talk Radio and Global Star Radio Network, either one. And not on YouTube. The two shows, these supplemental programs, Doug Hagman Show, 9 to 10 Eastern Time, and, of course, Joe and John, 2 to 3 Eastern Time on Blog Talk Radio, BTR, and Global Star Radio only. Go to HagmanReport.com and you can find them. Today's show is kind of interesting. I'm interested to hear feedback from me about today's show, and I was starting to listen to their show today as well. Very interesting. But hello, Joe. Let's bring on Andrew Kerr. Because Andrew Kerr's got something here that
he's got a breaking story, something he's been working on for a number of months. Upward of 8 to 10 months now.
A year, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first call. I remember talking with him, Joe, and him laying this all out for me. Okay, now after they got done, after the housekeeping came in and cleaned up my head brains off the wall, because, man, I'm going to tell you something. What he laid out was just earth-shaking, and he's going to here to explain it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
TheCitizensaudit.com is Andrew's website, thecitizensaudit.com. And there's also a piece up on Hagman Report from the Daily Caller that was written about Andrew Kerr's complaint today. Brockbuster is the Media Matters cheap slurping from a slush fund. Andrew Kerr, it's great to have you back on the show.
Hey, Doug. Hey, Joe. Glad to be back on.
Hey, it's so glad to have you on. And may I say congratulations on your fine work. Fine investigative report. Folks, go to obviously visit Andrew Kerr's website, but the Daily Caller has done a great job in outlining the issue. Mr. Kerr, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. What in the world did you do? What have you done?
Yeah, I stumbled upon a really big hole about 9 months ago, and I've just now kind of found the end of this hole, grasping for air. So 9 months ago, I set out to answer a simple question. How is American Bridge 21st Century Foundation, a nonprofit organization that reports to the IRS, that shares office space with Media Matters for America, pay almost $7 million to 0 employees? So $7 million in employee expenditures, payments, salary, but to 0 employees. So what I uncovered was that this nonprofit organization, American Bridge Foundation, has a cost-sharing agreement with American Bridge 21st Century Super PAC, one of the largest Democratic super PACs in the business. They brag about supplying over $300 million worth of earned television time, all of it benefiting Democratic politicians, all of it negative towards, or most of it negative towards Republican politicians. So this is an incredibly complex scheme, but to sum it up, what the math and all the research appears to show is that American Bridge Super PAC, which is required to disclose the identity of its donors, is abusing its cost-sharing agreement with American Bridge Foundation, a nonprofit that reports to the IRS that's not required to disclose the identity of its donors, in an effort to conceal the identity of its donors. So essentially, money comes into the foundation just creates expenditures and then reimburses those created expenditures to the super PAC. That's what it appears is happening. The math, the trends, the change of behaviors from 2011, from when these organizations were founded, to 2015 and past to 2017. And while I was uncovering this scheme, what I had to do was go really, really deep into both nonprofit law and federal election law, two areas that not much of anybody really knows much about. So I had to go really deep into both of them, because it appears that this arrangement is set up to, it's identified the gaps in coverage from the IRS and the Federal Election Commission, and they're utilizing that gap to engage in the scheme. And what's concerning is that if you look at both sets of documents, just at the super PAC's filings on its own and the foundation's filings on its own, it doesn't look like anything's wrong. It's only when you look at them really, really deep and then you compare, and then all of a sudden you start to see, some tears right down the middle. So this is incredibly complicated. So if I start talking over you,
I'll just say this, just to the people out there. This is complex, but what Andrew Kerr has done, just to kind of give you a little bit of a boost here, is Andrew Kerr has connected some investigative dots in a way that no one else has. And I mean, no one on this planet has, except those involved in this scheme, alleged scheme. I have to use that word. And you did so through expending a lot of shoe leather. And folks, Andrew Kerr consulted attorneys, accountants, tax people, the best of the best. And I mean, you talk about an investigation, a labor-intensive investigation. This young man worked his butt off, and to make sure he's 100% accurate. So what he's explaining to you, and I'm going to shut up now, but what he's explaining to you is a very complex monetary. Would you call it money? What would you identify it as? If you were to give like a phrase to it, it's not really money laundering, is it?
I prefer to say
alleged,
failing to report political contributions.
Okay.
Because the money's flowing from the foundation into the super PAC, but it's flowing in the form of expense reimbursement. So American Bridge, David Brock, they may come out in response to the Federal Election Commission complaint that I filed today, and say that, oh, this is a gray area, there's nothing wrong here. There is something wrong here. If you're reimbursing expenses that never existed or never were incurred in the first place, then those aren't expense reimbursements, those are contributions. If you contribute money to a political organization, the identity of that donor if you contribute to a political organization, it must be reported. But that's not what's happening here. It's going into an expense reimbursement bucket, offsets to operating expenditures. If you go on the super PAC's reports on the Federal Election Commission, over $11 million since 2011 through the end of June 2017, but not $1 that has been counted as a political contribution. So that's the argument I'm setting out, is that I don't believe that these expense reimbursements are honest. I think that American Bridge Foundation is incurring some expenses that they need to reimburse to the super PAC, but I don't think it adds up to $11 million. The reason why I say that is when I went and looked in all of American Bridge's statements over the years describing their arrangement, with their foundation and their super PAC, which, by the way, they're very dodgy. Anytime a reporter asks about the arrangement, and a lot of times, and I have this documented in my report on my website at the Citizens Audit, where American Bridge just blatantly ignored the reporter's request to clarify, hey, what's going on with this cost sharing arrangement. So the math shows that from 2011 to 2015, over 90% of American Bridge Foundation's shared expenditures with the super PAC were for shared employees. And I painstakingly write that out, that establish that pattern in an explainer that I posted on my website. But once we establish that the vast majority of their expense reimbursements are for employees, and then we actually look at the individual expense reimbursements that the foundation is sending over to the super PAC, it looks very strange. At the beginning of this arrangement in 2011 through mid-year mid 2013, the reimbursements look like honest expense reimbursements for primarily employee expenditures. It's random, like $15,120.15, like just arbitrary example. And I show that the line items of the foundation's expense reimbursements with the super PAC. But then as we enter the latter half of 2013 and then into 2015, the pattern changes to where all of a sudden American Bridge Foundation is reimbursing expenses of exactly $100,000, exactly $50,000, exactly $200,000. Those look much more like contributions than they do expense reimbursements for primarily over 90% for employees. How do you incur exactly $100,000 in salary and exactly $50,000 in salary the following month, followed by $3,000 in salary, followed by $100,000 in salary? It doesn't make sense. And to cap this off, as we enter 2017, things just get really messy. American Bridge Foundation, interestingly enough, doesn't begin incurring expenses in 2017 until after David Brock's high-profile $40 million fundraising campaign on the weekend of Trump's inauguration, which should ring some serious warning bells that how come the foundation didn't incur any expenses, apparent as the records show, from late September 2016 all the way until January 23rd, 2017, 3 days after this high-profile fundraising campaign. It really lends credibility to my argument that these don't look like honest expense reimbursements. They look like contributions that are just being disguised expense reimbursements. So this matters. If you're giving money to a political committee, a super PAC, you still have to follow the rules. It needs to be reported as a contribution, and that's what we're arguing here. And
okay, and folks, please go to thecitizensaudit.com, thecitizensaudit.com. Download this report. Download this report in case it disappears. Make a hard copy of it, please. Andrew, continue, sir.
Yeah, and by the way, there are dozens of links to American Bridge reporting, to their websites, to the reports that they filed, all the information, all the websites that I've used to come to these conclusions. Don't worry, I saved them all. They're all archived. So there's no use in trying to take those websites down because I've got them all saved. So, and that's part of the reason why I've been so quiet these past couple of months, is that as we've been preparing this complaint, all I'm utilizing is information that's already in the public sphere that could be easily changed. So I kind of hid under a rock, and we got this complaint really, nailed down tight. And then, after I filed it today at the Federal Election Commission, it's like the weight's off my shoulder.
We were, and I have to say this, Andrew, we kept our mouths shut about this. We were very concerned about your safety. We didn't say a word to anybody. But now, just so people are clear, you have filed a complaint with the FEC, correct?
Yes. Okay.
The Federal Elections Commission, and the defendant in this case, or the I guess you'd call them the defendant.
The respondents.
The respondents. Okay.
Yeah. So a Federal Election Commission's complaint isn't like a typical legal document. Pretty much, I'm just notifying the Federal Election Commission that, hey, you guys need to know about this. I request that you conduct an investigation into these matters. So the Federal Election Commission has a set of steps that they need to take. So within 5 days, they need to acknowledge that they received my complaint, that I properly notarized it, and that there's no glaring errors in it. And then they'll allow, after those 5 days, American Bridge and Correct the Record, which is also a respondent in the complaint, to give their reasoning why Andrew, he doesn't know what he's talking about. You don't need to conduct an investigation. But I believe that the questions that I'm raising in this complaint, there's 5 counts. I think that they absolutely deserve an investigation. Unfortunately for the Federal Election Commission, we know the solution. So American Bridge Foundation told the IRS in 2013 that they kept employee timesheets to track employee expenditures to ensure that they weren't financially supporting the activities of the super PAC. So all the Federal Election Commission needs to do is to inspect each and every single employee timesheet for each and every single employee for each pay period at American Bridge, starting in March 2011 through the end of June 2017. Since American Bridge Foundation said that they keep these timesheets, they should be either stuffed in a digital file or they should just be in a file cabinet. It should take all of 5 minutes for them to take all those timesheets, which they said they keep, and give them to the Federal Election Commission to prove that their expense reimbursements are honest. If they do not do that, or if the Federal Election Commission declines to investigate this, take this complaint seriously and conduct an investigation, then we really need to question whether the Federal Election Commission has any intention of faithfully enforcing the law to all organizations. To me, as just a citizen journalist, I find it very concerning that for the past 9 months, I've been placed in a position to where if I don't say anything, then nobody learns about this. I'm talking about the cost-sharing relationship between a super PAC and a nonprofit, and the super PAC is the common paymaster for all the shared employees. The Federal Election Commission doesn't know; they've never been notified once that American Bridge Super PAC is a common paymaster, that they're sharing all or a large portion of their employees with American Bridge Foundation. To me, that's just mind-boggling how the Federal Election Commission doesn't require them, the organizations they oversee, to disclose that they have any cost-sharing relationships with other organizations. The same thing goes with the IRS. Nonprofits actually don't have to tell the IRS that they have a cost, that they are using a common paymaster. And what's more bizarre is that in order to be a common paymaster, you need to be a related organization. But when you look at American Bridge Foundation and you look at their end of year Form 990s that they file with the IRS, and you look at their related organizations, they don't list American Bridge Super PAC as a related organization, but they're actually doing that the right way, because the IRS has two different definitions for related organization. One for everything but common paymaster appears, and then two related organization tests for common paymasters. So normally, if you have 30% shared officers or directors, that's the test to determine whether you have a related organization, a parent-child relationship.
Right.
But for a common paymaster, you just have to have 30% shared employees. So American Bridge it meets the criteria of related organization for common paymaster, but not for the IRS's other definitions for common paymaster. So the reason why I'm saying this is that when I've been investigating this and trying to piece together how this arrangement works and asking the questions, it becomes quite apparent that there are some serious gaps in the way that the IRS and the Federal Election Commission approach election integrity, and there's this clear gaps in their reporting requirements. So that's a really high overview of how this is happening, how the organizations that are supposed to be conducting oversight have completely missed this and are completely unaware, and how the media, despite almost a dozen times that I've been able to locate from 2012 through 2016, have kind of seen the breadcrumbs, but haven't been able to piece together really the arrangement that's happening. So
what's I'm sorry. What's the potential blowback here? Let's assume, and I believe you're 100% accurate, that your allegations are accurate. What's the blowback? What's the Brock's organization? What happens?
Well, I'm sure that many of your viewers have seen the memo that was leaked by the Washington Free Beacon in January by David Brock, disclosing it was a fundraising conference. They're seeking to raise $40 million for Media Matters for America, American Bridge,
right.
Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, D.C., and Share Blue Media. And in that memo, it's like a brag sheet, saying American Bridge's accomplishments. And American Bridge they talk about how they feed like 18,000 stories to the media based off their research. Todd Aiken in 2012, he was the Republican candidate for senator that he made the gaffe about legitimate rape that cost him the election. And that's not to give any of my opinions on that statement. I personally found that to be a reprehensible statement. But American Bridge, they had trackers that were following Todd Aiken's every move. And they brag about how Todd Aiken made that comment, and then American Bridge took that clip, and then pretty much dispersed that to the media, and it went viral, within moments. I mean, that's the impact that American Bridge has. American Bridge also talks about how they provided opposition research directly to political campaigns, in addition to a wide swath of other nonprofits such as Emily List and Planned Parenthood, I believe, is listed in the in that memo as well. So every elected Democrat has indirectly benefited from American Bridge's research. And so if given all this talk about election integrity ever since Trump got elected with Russia, and to be honest, I support investigations. The truth doesn't fear being exposed. So I'm all for trying to get to the bottom of that and answering everybody's questions. But if it turns out that American Bridge is breaking federal election law, not following disclosure rules, will Democrats continue to accept help from American Bridge 21st Century? They plan to be active in every single 2018, every single competitive Senate race in 2018, as per that memo.
Yeah.
Their stated goal is to impeach President Trump, make him a one-term president in 2020. Those types of goals are fine for super PACs, but if they're breaking the rules, will Democratic politicians still accept their help? I'd hope that they wouldn't, that they would distance themselves from American Bridge. I hope that the Federal Election Commission takes my complaint seriously. Everybody that I talked to, you said that I've been talking to lawyers and tax experts. That the conclusion after all those discussions is the same. It says, wow, these questions that you're asking really do deserve to be answered. So,
Andrew, we only got about 2 minutes left. If that, I want to ask you the FEC. What you say if they review your complaint? Isn't the way that you set it up and filed it? Don't they have to address it, or can they look at it and say there's nothing, just dismiss it out of hand with some excuse?
Yeah, so they have to accept, within 5 days, accept the complaint, and then give the respondents 15 days to respond. But then after that, the commissioners will need to hold a vote. And so there's there should be 6 commissioners, and all the rules state that you need to have 4 out of 6 commissioners give a thumbs up of approval to conduct an investigation. However, now there's only 5 commissioners. There's an empty seat. Based off my understanding, I still think that we're going to need to get 4 out of the 5 active commissioners to accept. There are 3 Republican commissioners, 1 Democratic, and 1 independent commissioner. Their information is available on the Federal Elections website, as is their email. I'm sure that they would love to receive some emails from concerned citizens such as myself that they should take this complaint seriously.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. We're going to we're stretching this by a couple of minutes. We're going to forego the network break to keep you on a couple of minutes more. So you're okay. People should email the FEC, right? On your behalf. The commissioners on your behalf.
Well, I mean, their email is out there on their website. So, okay. I mean, for me, I think that I'm really gung ho on the power of the individual being able to influence their government. That's what I've been seeking to prove by example, and conducting this research and putting out these reports. Just as one person, the difference that somebody can potentially make. So, but now it's kind of all hands on deck. I've filed the complaint. The facts are all laid out. They speak for themselves, and now we're beholden to the commissioners of the Federal Election Commission that are notoriously deadlocked, that frequently just aren't able to come to decisions or enforce the law that they're supposed to enforce. So I hope to drum up enough support for this effort to essentially indirectly force the hands of the commissioners to say that, hey, either you take this complaint seriously, or large swaths of the American public are going to really have concerns that you are serious about properly enforcing the law. I mean, look at what the IRS with the Lois Lerner scandal. I don't think that's good for the country, that large portions of the population think that the the law is only properly enforced for conservatives versus liberals. And honestly, it's not about your intentions, it's how it's perceived. And that's how large portions of the American public are perceiving their government. It's up to the government to change the way that they conduct their business, and to change our minds to prove to us that yes, we do take this seriously, regardless of the partisan implications. So I really do hope that the Federal Election Commission doesn't just sweep this under the rug. And let me just touch up on how blatant some of the allegations are. So this one is related to Correct the Record, that some may remember during the election was funding pro-Hillary trolls on the internet.
Right.
Well, a WikiLeaks email from late 2015 revealed that Correct the Record said that they sent 400,000 emails to another super PAC's email list. That super PAC was named Ready PAC, or Ready for Hillary, from earlier in 2015. However, looking at Correct the Record's disbursements, all of them from 2015 through 2016, they never made any sort of payments towards Ready PAC for that email list, let alone anything else. So why does that matter? Well, you can't just give a valuable email list to a super PAC. That either has to be paid for or rented, or it needs to be recorded as an in-kind contribution. But Correct the Record did neither. I mean, that's a very blatant violation, it appears. And if the Federal Election Commission looks at that and says, super PAC used an email list that they did not rent or purchase, we're not going to look at that. That should raise some serious concerns if they really have what it takes to enforce the law.
Well, all we can say is, in the final 60 seconds that we have you just took a very sharp stick and poked a very big bear.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me tell you something. Andrew Kerr is the man. His investigative documents are available at his website, thecitizensaudit.com. Read about it as well at the Daily Caller. But thecitizensaudit.com is where you can download the report. And Andrew, almost a year of your life working on this, and I know you've done such a great investigative job. I just, the people of America owe you a debt of gratitude, and we thank our listeners too for their support of your efforts as well, giving them a nod, a hat tip as well, because it wasn't cheap, it wasn't easy, and now the test comes. Right.
Yeah, and yeah, I've put down a lot of money myself, but I'd like to thank your listeners for their support as well. I came on the show in June, I believe, and the support was great. So thank you.
And and I know there's a lot of out-of-pocket expenses on your behalf. I know you did a lot of traveling on this. You consulted a lot of experts, and they're not cheap, and you did a great job. So let's keep supporting Andrew Kerr, because he is making a difference.
And we'll keep watching the Citizens Audit for the updates, and you keep in touch with us, Andrew, and we'll put you on the show as much as you need to cover the updates as they continue.
Amen.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great job, sir.
Thanks, Andrew.
You're the man. Folks, we then thank you, Global Star Radio Network. Thank you.
I just want to say this. It's great to see this finally get completed and filed. As you said at the beginning of the interview, this is something that Andrew's been working on for up to 10 months.
Yeah.
And has put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. And it's just been fascinating now to see the finished product and what is going to come of that, and the potential for Andrew to continue to do this kind of work as a journalist. Pretty excited about that. So that's great.
Joe, and it's difficult to explain all of the intricacies in a 30-minute segment. And because it almost seems like, does it really matter? It almost sounds like this bookkeeping shuck and jive kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I know, and it does matter, because more than often than not, these people skate on the corruption, on the scandals.
Yep.
And here we have available documentation that they have to provide, and rules and guidelines that they have to stay in are being broken systematically by these same people who get away with these things left and right. And if this is the way that they're held accountable, if Media Matters is held accountable, if they lose their tax-exempt status, well, then that's a win. That's one in the win column for the alternative media. And even if they don't lose it, even if just the fact that people came together, donated, helped Andrew put in the legwork, did this huge investigation, sought the experts, and brought it forward, that's a win in itself just as well. But we want to see this thing through.
And I remember the very first conversation we had about this, and he was explaining this to me. And the more we got into it, the more I said, look, you need a forensic accountant, and he got one. And then another conversation, look, you need an attorney. He got one. And another conversation, I said, you need more attorneys, and he got them. And, the deeper that he went into this, and then finally I said, you need some bodyguards, man. I mean, seriously, because the findings on this are just beyond. I mean, folks, go to thecitizensaudit.com or read about this in the Daily Caller. This is just an incredible story. David Brock, of course, the former boyfriend / lover / whatever of James Alefantis, and head of Media Matters for America, American Bridge 21st Century, and of course the American Bridge 21st Century Foundation, Super PAC, sharing its name, American Bridge 21st Century. All of this at the epicenter of a financial scandal, alleged scandal, and of course David Brock, paging David Brock. Andrew Kerr did a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
Moving forward, we have with us Coach Dave Daubenmire. He's been on site in Texas, spearheading Hurricane Harvey relief efforts. And even though all this stuff's been going on in the news, the hurricane recovery and relief efforts continue and are ongoing. And Coach Dave has been down there putting in the hours, volunteering, coordinating with a bunch of other people in order to bring food and supplies and whatnot, all down to the people who are still struggling. And it's not just in Texas. There's still an ongoing big relief effort in Puerto Rico. There are, the wildfires in California. We have a lot of stuff going on, but Coach Dave has been down here. He's been down here for weeks, and he's been making a huge impact on some of the problems that are ongoing down there. Coach Dave, it's great to have you back on the show.
Hey, you guys quit pounding back there? I think I did that the last time. Good night, Doug. Good night, Joe. I had to do that again. Hey, listen, man. What a great guest. You guys are on top of everything, man. And I just want to tell you, I'm honored to be with you. I don't know if you guys can see my face here, Joe. I'm going to try to do a little bit of flip. I want to show you something here. This is 7 weeks, fellas.
What did you do?
It's been 7 weeks, and this is what you still see here on the streets of Port Arthur.
Wow.
This is where we are. 7 weeks, brothers. And you can walk up and down streets. I don't care which one. You walk up and down them, and this is what you see. This is what's left of people's lives. And we made the commitment, Doug and Joe, thanks to you guys and a lot of other people. We made the commitment that we were going to see this thing through, and we've kept people on the ground down here now going on 7 weeks. We got another crew coming in next weekend. We got a crew coming in after that. Brothers, listen, guys, a lot of stuff, a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. Let me tell you this. We got to keep our eye on the ball. And we live in, I'm thinking about 5 or 6 weeks ago, Doug, everybody was worried about that hurricane. What was that name? Irma, whatever that was. That was the big news. Remember they had Harvey? I'm sorry, I'm walking here. I'm using my cell phone. We had Harvey, then we worried about Irma. And we are just moving. I don't know if you've noticed this or not. We're moving from one crisis to another in America. And one of the things that's happening to us is we are becoming desensitized to everything that's going on. Now, listen, guys, I've been watching Las Vegas. What's going on in Las Vegas? Something crazy going on in Las Vegas, all right? But let's not take our eye off the ball, because the job of the enemy, which I would call the deep state, is to do what? Brother, they're running bootlegs. We have got to keep our eye on the ball and understand exactly what it is that's going on. So we're down here, and we're continuing to do what we said we were going to do 7 weeks ago. I know about the fires going on in San Francisco. I know about what happened in Las Vegas. I know about earthquakes that are going on everywhere. Hey, this is that, man. We can't be surprised. But here's what we have to do. We cannot get distracted and move from one crisis to another. And what we need to get people to understand is wherever you are, whatever you're doing, try to make a difference right where you are. We stuck a flag in the ground down here in Port Arthur and down at Rockport. And we're just following through on many of your listeners, Doug, who gave us donations to come down here and serve these people. So we're down here. This is my third trip. This is my first trip to Port Arthur. Let me flip this thing around, show you what we got going on here right now. We're doing a feeding out here. We're just wrapping up another feed. I don't want to talk about this. I'm going to introduce you to a hero here in a second. And I want you to understand that one person can, in fact, make a difference. So you see we're grilling hamburgers over here. We've got a lot of people, and it's winding down. Hey, Chris, come on over here a second. Hey, Doug, I want to do an interview here if I can. Just stay right there a second, Chris.
You got the floor,
Doug,
Coach.
Okay, Doug, I want you guys, folks, I want you to look at this guy right here. His name is Chris Keys. When I came down, he's been down here on the ground for 6 weeks. When I came down here yesterday, I said, hey, Chris, man, you're a hero. And he said, no, I'm not a hero. And you know what, Doug? Hero's somebody that doesn't think they are. And that's Chris Keys. Let me tell you this story, what he did. The night that the hurricane hit, down here in Houston, we decided we were going to come down here. I got a hold of a buddy named Rusty Thomas, Operation Save America. Rusty said, man, you got to call Chris Keys. He lives down there in Houston. He can probably make some connections for you. So I called Chris. Chris says, Coach, you're not going to believe this. I'm getting in my truck and I'm heading out in a boat. I'm going to go out and rescue people. Now, let me back up a second, Doug, Joe. Chris Keys, standing before you right now, on Mother's Day weekend, was arrested outside the abortion clinic in Louisville, Kentucky, trying to rescue babies. This guy is a rescuer. It is what his life is all about. And he has dug in down here for 6 weeks, feeding these people, helping organize rehabilitation of homes. This unbelievable story. But here's what I want you to hear, Doug. Hey, Chris, welcome here, brother. Listen, hey, Chris, I want you to tell them about that harrowing first night when all of a sudden you said, I'm going to get me a truck and I'm going to get me a boat and I'm going to go rescue people.
I guess I had a call from a particular guy, and it was the first time I went to get somebody, and there weren't really boats going in yet. The water was still, people kind of drive around, but even my truck was getting where I had to jump up on islands.
He's got a big truck.
And kind of get up on the islands in order to make it not get into the intake. So I got this guy out. His name was Mike. I got back to our house. I realized, okay, we're gonna need a boat because my truck's gonna take in water and get shut down. And also we realized that it wasn't changing. We had missed the wind to some degree, but the water was just rising really fast. So anyway, some of us were praying. I moved my stuff to my second story of my apartment, and we thought the bottom might flood. But I got another young guy. I said, get a boat, and he actually grabbed it on the way down to meet me. We got together, and we were taking calls in Houston at first, and doing that, getting people, and did a bunch of rescues here in Houston. And then we realized that there are a lot of guys with boats here, but stuff's swinging around to Port Arthur in these areas. And
that's 90 miles, Doug. Port Arthur's 90 miles south of Houston. Now I'm going to speed Chris up just because he's just a humble guy. So they got Doug. They got word that somebody down in Port Arthur. They didn't know it was Port Arthur. They got an address of somebody that they needed to help go rescue. And Chris says, well, I'll go get them. And they couldn't find where they were. And they said, well, that's Port Arthur. That's 90 miles. And Chris said, I don't care. I told him I was going to come and get him. And Chris, tell them about that ride coming down through the water, what that was like.
Yeah. Well, and the gal, that when her phone got shut off, we couldn't reach her anymore. And the last thing we said was, we're coming to get you. So we were debating whether or not this was good to do that or not. But anyway, we said, we have to go, because that was the last thing she heard, that we're coming to get her. So
she said the water was coming up above her.
Yeah, well, she said, I got water coming to my chest. My kids are up on the washing machine. And we called the police. Obviously, we tried to get people locally to go get her. We couldn't get anybody, so we said, we got to go. So we went, but every place we went, roadblock after roadblock, not even National Guard was going yet.
Doug, they had road closed signs, and Chris would get out of his truck, move the road closed sign, and continue on down a road completely covered with water. Yeah, took him 5 hours to go those 90 miles.
And we would put the signs back because we didn't want other people in cars and stuff to get sunk. But we kept, going around and around and around. And, it was, and there were times that we had to get out and get guys out and actually stand on the water and look for the lines on the road because you couldn't see barriers. You didn't know if you were going to go off into a ditch or not.
You saw cars in the water or beside you.
It was like driving through a lake. That's what it looked like. So, but when we got down there, we worked our way to this gal's house. Finally got to the house, and she had been, this particular gal, by the time we got there, walking in her house in water. Somebody got her, but when we got there were all kinds of people just standing in their front lawns, old guys sitting out there in their shorts, and nobody looking for somebody to get them. So we just started getting people.
This was done at night, by the way, Doug. We didn't say that. He drove down at night.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't know an hour and a half, 45 minutes thing turned into 5 hours just to get there.
He called me at 4 a.m, Doug, on his way down there and says, Coach, this is really harrowing, man. I need some prayer. This is really treacherous. And he went down in there. I'm moving the story ahead because I want to talk about what we're doing here. These guys rescued about 100 people, Joe. And I want your listeners to know that the money that they sent to us, we put gas in the tank that got those guys down here.
Yeah.
Now, you think that would be enough, wouldn't you? You think that would be enough. Chris got arrested on Mother's Day weekend for rescuing babies. He drives down through this treacherous weather, and nobody else will go down to Port Arthur. He rescues 100 people, so you think he would go back home and go to the Bahamas and rest, wouldn't you? No. He got his son and his daughter, and they've come down here, and they've been down here now for 6 consecutive weeks. They don't live here, Doug. They don't live here, but they've come down here to try to help these people down here.
Yeah, there have been some other good. We've had a lot of people come in and out through this time too, and Coach, we've been just keeping, as long as we have something to work with, we've been doing this, buying food, buying specific things for specific people here. One of the ladies we're bringing a hamburger to tonight is a lady that was sleeping in her car for 11 days after the flood. She slept in her car, and then. We also got her an AC because her AC didn't work.
Let me stop a minute. Doug, listen to this story. Her house was flooded. She's 80 years old. Her house was flooded. And Chris caught up to her and says, well, where are you sleeping, ma'am? She says, well, I'm sleeping in my car. But her car had been underwater. So the car seat was totally soaked. And at night, she would get a blanket, and she'd put the blanket over that car seat, and she would sleep in it and get up in the morning, and the blanket would be soaked. And she would lay the blanket on the top of her car and let it dry out. And she did that for 11 nights. And now Chris Keys has been down there rehabilitating her house, taking all the drywall out and making it habitable. There's great stuff going on, brother. There's a lot of heroes. Now, Chris, we got a lot going on behind the scenes, Doug and Joe. But listen, it is important. But hey, Chris, you're down here sharing the gospel. You're not just cooking hamburgers for people.
We don't even. People don't. You can see here. We try. Everybody that comes through gets a tract or a Bible. We've been at a lot of Bibles, but we put them in their hands. We don't want to be where they're just door to door and they just go in the trash them. And we have pictures of people's Bibles that their own Bibles are full of mold sitting out in piles because the bookshelves just pop up and fall right over when the waters came up. So it's a very big deal to talk about this rescue that we did or participated in, but also the greatest rescue of all when Christ rescued us really from ourselves.
Amen.
And from our own sin.
So did you get that picture, man? Talking about being rescued out of a boat, but he comes to us, no, the real rescue is to be rescued from your sins by Christ. And Doug, Joe, it's just unbelievable the work that's going on down here. Now, Chris, I'm going to move on. Bless you. Chris is a hero, man. Hey, Doug and Joe,
Chris, you're a hero. I just want to say, Chris, you are an absolute hero.
You're a hero, man. He said, but he won't let you say that he is, right?
Well,
he didn't. He just won't say it. But he's still down here, Doug. While everybody else has moved on to Las Vegas and everybody's moved on to, Chris is being a faithful. The Bible says to commit to faithful men, and that's Chris Keys is a faithful man.
Coach, this you are exemplifying what Christians, true Christians, should be doing and are doing in your case. And God bless you. Keep going, sir.
Oh yeah.
Well, Doug, I'm going to grab this sweetheart right here, ma'am. You're live and on there. What's your name?
Joanne Wheeler.
Hey, Joanne, tell us your story a little bit about what has happened down here and how you've survived what's going on.
It's not here. We're on the other side of Beaumont Lake.
Okay.
We had 61 inches of rain, and I have a picture. I can show you a picture of how it looked. But
you don't have to because we can't even imagine. Water's water. Okay, Doug and Joe, I don't know if you can see that picture of it.
Yeah.
But how have you survived it? What's going on, Joanne?
A lot of prayer. A lot of prayer. And we was taken out in a boat. 4 roads were closed. Nobody could come in or out. And so the mayor of Sarah Lake told us that no one was coming to help us. So we got all of our food. Everybody, the townspeople, that were staying in the shelter got all their stuff together, and we shared it in the shelter.
Isn't that something? Hey,
And
folks, don't believe this idea that we're a divided nation. The media wants us to believe that,
I
but
know.
people join together down here to
Well, they
rescue each
couldn't
other.
get in because the roads were closed.
We're all blocked off.
Yeah, water up on all roads. And there's 4 ways in, 4 ways up, the same 4 way out. So about a week and a half later, a helicopter, Army helicopter came in with supplies for us.
Week and a half.
About a week and a half. But us townspeople that lived in the shelter, we all came together.
Amen.
As family. And I had water, another person had canned goods, and we cooked at the center. And
we're resilient people, Doug and Joe. Resilient people. Doug, bless you, Joanne. Thanks.
hey, I got a question.
Sure, yeah, right.
Not with the camera.
Okay, we'll get it here in a second. Here's Jared to come all the way from Heath, come down here to help us as well. What's been your experience, Jared?
It's awesome. Well, it's bad. There's still a lot of trash, I mean, pretty crazy, almost 2 months. But it's great to be able to help these people and point them in the right direction.
That's right. Share the gospel with them. Now, Doug, Joe, if you don't mind me putting a shameless plug in here, we're going to be down here for longer, Doug. And you know what we need? We need money. Sure, send us money. But you know what we need more than money, Doug? We need people. We need people.
Amen.
We're looking for guys who's, if somebody would just contact me at CoachDaveLive.com, just contact me. Say, Coach, listen, I can come next weekend. I can come the following. I can come the first weekend of November. We need people who can come down. What we're doing, Joe, Doug, we're bringing into Port Arthur construction guys who know what they are doing, but we need grunts. You know what I'm saying? We need grunts when we go in. They begin to put the new drywall in. Guys to carry the drywall in, the guys to do all that kind of stuff. And we have the experts down here who know how to repair some of these homes, but we need helpers. We need helpers. We'll take care of your food when you're down here. We'll give you a place to stay. We'll help with your traveling expenses. So I just put that appeal out there to more and more. This is, folks, again, this is an opportunity to make the church great again. And we have volunteers that are here helping us. We fed probably 300-400 tonight. We'll feed that many more tomorrow. We'll be repairing homes with the crew we have down here. We have 20 college students from Kentucky Mountain Bible College coming in next weekend, not this weekend, the next weekend. Then we got 5 guys we're flying in from different parts of the country to come in and do the repairs. Doug, we need bodies. We need some people who say, listen, Coach, I don't know what I can do, but I'm willing to help. We need women to come down and do the cooking for us. There's still a lot of stuff to be done. Most people have moved on to Las Vegas. They've moved on to earthquakes. They've moved on to fires in San Francisco. Brother, we have unfinished work here in Port Arthur, Texas, that we've committed to do.
Okay, Coach, to be clear, anyone who can help, any able-bodied man or woman, contact you how?
Just go to CoachDaveLive.com, Coach Dave. Or I can give a phone number if they want to also, Doug.
Okay.
It's CoachDaveLive.com. My phone number is 740-323-0871. 740-323-0871. And we've had people who now have said to us, listen, Coach, I will pick up the tab to fly some people in. So if you have a specific skill and you'd like to come down and help us, we can help it so that you don't like it's 20 hours for me, Doug. We've had guys drive 26 hours to come and help. And luckily somebody stepped forward and said, I'll buy some tickets to fly some of those guys down there. So if that's you out there and you'd like to come for a weekend, you get a hold of me as soon as you can so we can get you set up and get you down there.
And I'll just say this: the Hagman Report will we'll work out the details. If you're an able-bodied man out there and you can spend at least a week, we will.
Or even a weekend, Doug.
Or
if they
could
fly in on a Friday and fly out on a Monday, that would be just as great as well.
The Hagman Report will guarantee your transportation anywhere in the continental United States. Okay, that's the best we can do.
Doug, we appreciate it. Listen, folks, hear me, folks. Please hear my heart here. The church has got to get ready.
Yes.
We can't run around from crisis to crisis to crisis. And what the Lord is showing us, I believe, when you look at the hearts of the people down here, that little Joanne we just talked to, these folks lost everything, Doug. They're asking questions. I'm a good Christian. I go to church. What's going on? It's an opportunity for us to come down and say, listen, man, hate to tell you this, but the rain falls on the just and the unjust, and it's time for you to get right with the Lord. That's the message that we bring when we come. Yeah, we put a hamburger in their belly, and yeah, we tear out their drywall. We do all that stuff. But these people are open. They've lost everything, and we want them to know that the one thing that they cannot afford to lose is their relationship with Jesus Christ. So Rahm Emanuel and all those guys. Hey, Doug, it's unbelievable how much the other side, how much the other side is in control. We see that great interview that you just did, all the stuff that's going on, and nobody will do anything about it. There's no referee that will throw a flag, no judge that'll fight. Hey, fellas, guys, girls, we have got to begin to stand up and fight and make a difference right where we live. Quit chasing tragedies. Quit chasing disasters. Get prepared right where you are. Get yourself a downline of people right in your local area that if the crap hits the fan right where you live, you guys are going to be ready to rise up and help your community survive. That's the message that I see, Joe. Doug, I can't do anything about what went on in Las Vegas. I think it stinks to high heaven, but I can't do anything about that. But I can cook a hamburger right down here. I can tear out some drywall right down here in Port Arthur, and I can share the gospel of Jesus Christ with lost and dying people down here. To me, that's what we got to keep our eye on the ball.
And that's the most well said. That's it. We can't do a damn thing about Las Vegas. We can't do a thing about other things, but we can help. And Joe, you're going to say something, I know.
Coach, I just wanted to ask you, how long do you anticipate the recovery efforts going to last down there?
About 20 years.
Yeah, really.
About 20 years. But we're committed, Doug and Joe. If we can get people to come and help us, we're committed through Thanksgiving. In fact, we were talking just yesterday about coming down and doing a real nice Thanksgiving feed down here. But I don't, sometimes I outrun my coverage. You know what I'm saying? I'll kick my coverage. That would be my plan, is to try to stay down there at least through Thanksgiving. And, hey, Doug, we can never do enough, brother. I'm just telling you. You walk up and down these streets. It's 8 weeks, 7 weeks, and the crap is still out in front of their front yard. And some of them have got back in their homes, but when we're cooking them here tonight, they come up and say, oh, thank you. I still don't have a stove. I still don't have a refrigerator. These people lost everything, and they don't have the finances to go out. So their lives are going on, but not to the degree that they were. So we're doing all we can to try to give them a little bit of hope.
Coach, do you know, out of the people who are rebuilding, staying, if there are a lot of people leaving or moving from the area because of what happened?
Joe, what a great question. I had a lady say to me, I went to Walmart today to pick up a bunch of supplies. And you know what the lady said to me? She says, I've never seen anything like this. These people down here lose everything, and they will not leave. And I'm thinking, man, is that ever the American spirit? They may have a blown up home, but by golly, it's their home. If they have to sleep in their car and they have to sleep in a tent, they're going to do it, and they are committed that they are going to rebuild. And it's down here in the southern part of Texas. Hey, it's a diverse community. I hate to use that word. There are Vietnamese down here. There are Hispanics down here. I ran into a Hispanic woman yesterday who has lived here 44 years. She wasn't some border jumper. We all think that about Hispanics. These people down here have been in this community a long time, and they're family oriented. They love their families. They stay together, and it breaks our heart to see what's going on down here and how they're struggling so hard to stay alive while the rest of us move on to other things. I walked in Walmart today, Doug. I was looking for some charcoal, and you know what the lady told me? She says, I don't know if we have any charcoal. We moved it out because we got Christmas decorations coming.
Oh.
That's what she told me, brother. That's America, isn't it, buddy?
That's America, indeed. Coach, yep. We tweet this out to Donald Trump, at Real Donald Trump. Tweet this out everywhere you can. But, Coach, you are a true American hero. You, and please accept that. As well
Chris,
as
there's real hero. Chris laid his life on the line, brother. He got in that boat. It is dangerous. Nobody would come down there.
Man, that's
nobody
amazing.
was going to Port Arthur, and he went to Port Arthur and has been here 6 weeks ever since.